Hey everyone, John here from the Four Brewers podcast, and I am back with another beer. Today we're drinking a beer from Stereo Brewing Company out of Placentia, California, and this is a very special beer. This is a collaboration that they did with Pat McElhaney from Alpine Brewing Company. You might know Alpine from such beers as Nelson and Pure Hoppiness. So this is kind of a big deal. This is HI-FIDELITY Lupulin Alliance. This is a, let's see, what's the alcohol in this? 7.0% alcohol by volume, IPA, West Coast IPA specifically, made with Centennial, CTZ, Idaho 7, and Simcoe hops. CTZ stands for Columbus, Tomahawk, and Zeus hops, I believe. So it's got a lot of hops in it, which makes sense because Pat McElhaney, he makes some of the best West Coast IPA in Southern California, if not the best. So it's an awesome collaboration, and I'm really stoked that Rick got to work with Pat. As far as malts go, it's two-row and Golden Promise. Pretty basic, nothing too complex. And then the yeast is California Ale yeast, SoCal yeast from White Labs. So before I open this beer, though, I want to give some notice about Idaho 7 hops. If anyone that watches these videos listens to the podcast, you know that we are predisposed to not liking beers with Idaho 7 hops because it's a weird hop. And a lot of times for us on the show, it comes off kind of with this funky earthiness. It's hard to describe, but there's a thing about it that we can't put our finger on, but it's always kind of off. And I did have a can of this before I'm doing this video, and without giving too much away, I did kind of get that, but I'm going into this with a fresh palate, and I want to see if I get it again, because I think, one, this beer is worth reviewing on YouTube and on Instagram TV, and two, if you have a beer for the first time, a lot of times if you have it again, your views and thoughts on it might change. So that's how I'm approaching this beer. Yeah, I've said enough. Let's open this up and check it out. Okay, so immediately this beer looks awesome. It's damn near crystal clear. Got a slight haze on it. Bright white head with at least a finger of foam. That's 3 inches, 3/4 of an inch of foam on there. Looks really, really good. They nailed it on the head retention, the foam, and the look of the beer. So again, it's made with two-row and Golden Promise. So it's gonna be that very, very light pale yellow. So that said, let's see what it smells like. Okay, so this comes off very dank. This comes off very grassy, and earthy. So I'm already getting those Idaho 7 hop characteristics from the nose, which from the first can I had yesterday, it's coming through on this one too. By no means does this smell bad. I think, it's from my point of view, Idaho 7 is a weird hop. And it's something that, it's just how I interpret the hop. Just because I don't like that hop doesn't mean it's a bad hop to use. And in this beer, it doesn't ruin the beer at all. This is still a fantastic beer. I would gladly buy pints of this. This is really good. But as far as the nose goes, yeah, you get this earthy dankness from it that cannot be denied. But it's a big nose. It jumps out of the glass, and it's overall, aside from what I think about Idaho 7 hops, it's pretty fantastic. On the more negative side of things on the nose, I kind of get a hint of asparagus on the nose, which sounds bad in a beer. Me personally, I like asparagus. Not that I want to have IPAs that smell like asparagus all the time, but I don't necessarily mind it in IPAs. And with this, again, with the Idaho 7 hops, I think that kind of, it's not a vegetal note. It's even though asparagus is a vegetable, it's kind of like an earthy, danky kind of with asparagus on the highlights, I'd say. So this is a great beer though on the nose. There are no flaws on the beer. It doesn't have any diacetyl to come through or any kind of weirdness happening. But again, the hop profile on this, it's one of those things I think a vast majority of people will just enjoy it and not think about it because overall, as a whole, it smells really good. But for me, if I'm breaking it down and being like, you know, really critical, that's what I get. I get this like funky earthiness from it and a slight asparagus character with like some citrus and dank notes backing it up. I think the dank stands out more than the citrus by far, but that's what it is. So it smells like a fantastic West Coast IPA, but it has characteristics that I personally might not dig. So that said, let's see what it tastes like. Yeah. Oh, strong bitterness. It's nothing that's gonna like wreck your palate, but like you get it right up front and it carries all the way through through the swallow. Very nice mouthfeel, great carbonation. Everything's perfect on that front, but that same earthy, like you know, earthy, funky character from that, I'm assuming is from the Idaho 7 hops, comes through on this. It could also be coming from like the CTZ hops. I think they come off generally like kind of danky. I know Columbus is a pretty high alpha acid hop, and so it's got a lot of punch too. A lot of brewers use Columbus just for bittering hops because it's so plentiful and it's so high in alpha that you don't need to use a whole lot to bitter a beer. So I'm not sure where they used it in the process, but yeah, it could be. I'm blaming the Idaho 7 just because I know Idaho 7's in here. That said, when I had a pint of this at the brewery, I got the same kind of feeling like there's something about this that reminds me of something that I don't necessarily like, and typically it's that Idaho 7 character. So, but overall, like I said, the flavor, it follows the aroma. Very nice and clean though, dry as a bone on the finish, but still has a nice full mouthfeel, especially only using 2-row and Golden Promise. Like that's pretty awesome that they got so much out of just that, especially with the head too, because the head's hanging out too. Like a lot of times you're gonna add carapils or something like that to the malt profile to kind of boost up the head retention, and it's still hanging out. It's still doing pretty well. So for what's in this beer, and you know, the person that Stereo collaborated with, Pat from Alpine, like it's a fantastic beer. Don't get me wrong. It's just it's the hop profile, which ultimately might have been what they were going for, is like this dank earthiness, and it's not bad at all. It's just it's one of those things. It's a subjective kind of point of view, and it is what it is. So, but again, it's very crisp, very clean, very refreshing. 7% alcohol. Everything's well hidden as far as the alcohol goes. It's an excellent and very well made beer. So no flaws or anything like that. It's well done. It's a tasty beer. Going back for another sip, you do get like edges of like a slight like orange pith character. Not necessarily grapefruit where it's like really bitter and kind of tangy, but like a citrus edge to it that I think works well too. It works with the bitterness quite well because, you know, that citrus character comes off kind of acidic and kind of biting, and then you got the bite from the bitterness, and I think it works very well. So this beer was provided to us by Stereo Brewing Company, so thank you to Rick and Amanda for giving us this beer. It's a great beer, it really is, and it's totally worth checking out. And, you know, my point of view on the hops is my point of view, but you know, it's an interesting hop profile, to say the least. So it's definitely worth checking out just for that, and for enjoying like a really good, you know, West Coast IPA. So thanks for watching this video. We'll see you next time.